Hi, my name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED, and this is Q5 Ham Radio. Today I'm joined by Neil Rapp, WB9VPG, one of amateur radio's most dedicated educators, organizers, and youth advocates. Neil made headlines at age 5 when he became the youngest person in the world to earn an FCC ham radio license. But what really stands out is what he's done with that early start. Over the decades, Neil has helped build one of the most successful high school ham radio clubs in the U.S., hosted Ham Talk Live, anchored for Amateur Radio Newsline, and brought his passion for science and radio into the classroom as a longtime chemistry teacher and professor. But perhaps most importantly, he now serves as camp director for Youth on the Air in the Americas, helping the next generation of hams build community, skills, and confidence on and off the air. Whether it's through education, public service, or contesting, Neil's impact on the hobby runs deep. Q5 Ham Radio is sponsored by DX Engineering, trusted by contesters, de-expeditioners, portable operators, and everyday hams around the world. Neil, thank you for joining me.
Oh, thanks, Kevin. Glad to join you here this morning.
So 5 years old. Tell me about that. How did that happen?
Yeah. The story on that is my dad was in vocational electronics in high school, and his teacher was a ham. And so they learned about ham radio, but he never got his license. And so time went on. He went to work at as a TV repairman, and then a hospital. He's a biomedical electronics technician, and one of the doctors gave him a box of junk, and in there was a code oscillator. And so he got the code oscillator out and started trying to see if it would work. And me, being 5 years old, had to know what all the beeping noises were. That kind of got things started. He decided to go ahead and get his license. There was a class coming up. And he signed up for the class, and there was a 13-year-old age limit on it. So he went to the instructors and said, "Hey, is there any way, I can bring my 5-year-old son with me just to hang out? He won't cause any problems. He won't make any noise." And they're like, "Well, we're not really sure about that, but we'll give it a try." But he absolutely cannot make any noise while people are copying code and doing all this stuff. So I did everything my dad did. So he had his little notebook there, copying code. So I had to have my notebook, and I was there copying code. And suddenly people realized that I was copying CW. And so they're like, well, maybe that 13-year-old age limit on the class shouldn't be there. So yeah, turns out I passed the test, did all that, got in as a novice, and then upgraded to tech the next year, and general the next year, and advanced 2 years later, and just moved up the chain. And then finally extra when I was 20. I put off the 20 words a minute code, but did finally get it. But that was an early start. My dad and I did it together. Mom decided that she couldn't stand not knowing what we were saying in CW. So she took the class just to learn CW, not to get her license. Of course, she got her license and, started getting on the air. So that's kind of how it all started.
So I suspect you must have gotten some attention for that being so young. Did that shape your view of ham radio in any way?
Oh yeah. Yeah. TV crews were showing up, at the front door, and, I was in the National Enquirer and all the ham radio magazines and everything. And, Kenwood, sent me this radio right here, for my 6th birthday. And, so they did a little, publicity thing, and had me in one of the Japanese ham radio magazines and all the US magazines, and, brought a lot of attention. So then I went to Hamvention and started signing, eyeball QSO cards and QSL cards and, autographs and all that kind of thing. So, it was, I kind of got to know everybody really quickly.
Ham radio celebrity.
Yeah. That's how it started out. So a lot of people knew, and heard the story and inspired some people. That, hey, if this 5-year-old can do it, I can do that. And so that's where it started.
So eventually you got into teaching and you were teaching chemistry. And I'm kind of curious, while you were starting your career as a teacher, how did ham radio not only intersect with your life outside of the classroom, but were you bringing ham radio into the classroom also?
Well, when I took chemistry, there was a tie in there too with ham radio because at the time when I was younger, the chemistry teacher was involved in ham radio, and so that kind of sparked my interest, and so I studied chemistry. I was originally pre-med. I was planning on going to medical school, and that didn't work out, but decided to coach basketball and teach chemistry. And so I remembered that when I took chemistry, all the metrics, all the, plugging into formulas and calculating Ohm's law and all that stuff from ham radio really helped me get through chemistry, and it was a breeze. And so I've tried to, from the very beginning of my teaching career, put that, some of that in. There's one day that I really get to do ham radio, and that's when we talk about the electromagnetic spectrum, because electrons move in waves, and so we can use other waves to kind of describe what's going on with electrons. And so, I would always at least get one full day of, okay, here's ham radio. Now here, observe, some of these differences between this frequency and this frequency. How does this sound compared to the other? Just using broadcast stations, and how, the amount of energy that the waves have varies depending on frequency and wavelength. And so it really made that come alive, I think. And so I was able to use that as a recruiting tool, and then made the ham radio part mostly an after school program.
So tell me more about kids getting interested in ham radio beyond the classroom lessons. How often did that happen, and how did you encourage that?
So, the after school program, I did that, pretty much my entire high school career. We just got together once a week and came in and operated and worked on different projects, and just gave them the ability to do some things. And one of the things that I learned pretty early on, and Carol Perry, WB9VPG, kind of steered me in this direction, is you can't do everything for them. Let them spin the knob. Let them do everything. Originally what I would want to do is, spin the knob, find a really clear station for them to work so they can hear really well, and, set everything up for them, and then hand them the microphone, give them a script, and here you go. And I found out that, that works, but it works a whole lot better when they have a chance to spin the knob and make all the adjustments. And so, we really started focusing on, the club members teaching each other, which is what YOTA is based on. But the idea of them coming in and learning how to do it themselves was the motivating factor for them to get their license and then do it on their own. It wasn't, hey, you need to get a license first and then we'll do all this stuff. It was, we need to bring them in, let them do it, and then, as the control operator, I have to be there. But if you get your license, you don't need me anymore. And so that was really the focus of the after school program.
So your entire resume, starting at 5 years old, getting your license and upgrading very young, and then teaching kids how to get involved with ham radio, certainly makes you the ideal candidate for Youth on the Air and being the director there. Tell me when that happened and how that happened. How did you get involved with Youth on the Air? I mean, again, it's a natural progression, but how did that happen?
Yeah. So yeah, it made for a really good fit. There were some attempts to get YOTA started over here in the U.S. Prior to me hearing about it. I was actually doing an episode of my podcast, and a couple of guys came on to talk about it. They went to Austria in 2016 to the camp over there, with the goal of stealing everything, of going over there and find out exactly what they're doing and bring it back, write up a report and pitch the idea. And it just kind of fell apart after that. So I pulled out the report and we did a podcast episode. And at the end of the podcast, I said, I think I'm the guy for this. I think I could do this. I've done camps before. I've coached. I've taught. I've done ham radio. I think this is something I want to give a shot. And so we talked about it and kind of put some ideas together and started drafting everything, and here we are 5 years later.
The name Youth on the Air sort of tells us what it is, but how would you describe Youth on the Air to somebody who isn't even involved with ham radio? How would you describe it?
Youth on the Air is a ham radio movement of young people, pretty much under the age of 26 is how it's defined. But it's a movement of young people helping each other learn about ham radio. When we do our camps, I get all kinds of wonderful invitations of, hey, I'll come talk to them about, this, or I'll come show them, how to do this mode. And it's kind of awkward, but I have to say no, because the whole premise of YOTA is this hands-on peer interaction. And so we do one or two presentations in the entire week of camp. We're getting ready to do our first junior camp. And again, it's going to be one or two presentations. The rest of the time are hands-on activities. They are leading the sessions. The campers are the ones that are leading these things, not the adults. The adults are there for safety and for logistics and to make sure everybody's in good shape and we keep things safe for everyone. But we're really not there to do the ham radio part. We're there just to facilitate the kids learning from each other. And so we seek out kids that are experts to that level in a certain field, and we match them up with someone else so there's a backup there so they're not working by themselves. And so those two people come in and they lead the sessions. And it works really well. We've found, even scientifically, that students tend to be resistant to ask questions from their teachers and professors, which drives us crazy, because that's what we're there for. We're there to help. We're there to teach and answer questions. But unless you're way over your head, you're probably not going to ask. With peers, they'll ask. And so that's why we do that is, we'll bring in, a 14-year-old to lead our balloon session. We'll bring in a 19-year-old to talk about contesting. It's very different, because, we tend to, always look to the stars of ham radio to do these things, and sometimes that's too intimidating for them.
So tell me more about Camp Week. Where does that take place? What are the dates usually? How many kids attend?
So we have different camps now, but the big camp, the one that's been happening for the last 5 years now, is typically 6 days, mostly a week with travel, and that's located anywhere within YOTA region 2. So that's North Central South America. So anywhere in the Americas. So that's why we call it Youth on the Air Americas. Because there's also the Youngsters on the Air movement over in Europe and Asia and Africa. And then there are some over in Oceania and Japan and Korea. But we focus on the Americas. So we try to rotate our site each year to a different place. So we had the first 2 here in Cincinnati to kind of learn what we're doing and visit the Voice of America Museum. But then we went to Canada for 2 years. We went to Ottawa. We went to Halifax. And then this year we went out west for our first one in the western part of North America. So we went to Denver. Next year we'll be in Huntsville, so we'll be in the southeast for the first time. So we try to rotate that around. We do try to come back to Cincinnati every 5 or 6 years, but we try to rotate that around. We do advertise and draw from all of the Americas. So we had people from Argentina that have been coming. We have people from Canada that have been coming. We've had applicants that have tried to come from Mexico and Haiti and El Salvador, and unfortunately visas are complicated. And even though we start a year ahead of time, it's kind of hard to get all those through. So we haven't been successful with that. But we've also had some visitors come over from Europe. And so we have 2 spots that we leave open. And this year we actually had more than that. We had Austria, France, Italy, all represented this year. We've had Croatia before and Germany. So we've got to where we have 5 or 6 countries represented at each camp. The camps are averaging around 30 campers. Some years a little less. This year it was 32. It was our biggest one yet. But they come from all over the Americas and even Europe. And they come together for that week to explore all kinds of things. And when we change it up, it's never totally the same experience. We really focus on first-time campers because we would want to get everybody through this process and experience as possible. So we try to minimize our returning campers to just those that are doing the session leading. But it's been a great experience. The sub-regional camps are kind of just getting started, and they are smaller versions of the same thing. So it's like a 3-day weekend, or 3 days in the middle of the week. And those are country specific, so there's less travel involved. Here in the U.S., it's so big, we're hoping to have a West and an East and a Southeast and a Midwest, to kind of break up the travel. But Canada's planning on doing some sub-regionals soon. Hopefully Argentina will be next. They're working on some ideas to kind of spread this around. Our camp coming up next weekend is the first junior camp that we've had. So this one will be for under 15-year-olds. And so our age range is 9 to 14. for that one. It's going to be here at the Voice of America Museum in Cincinnati, and it's a 3-day weekend. A parent has to come. The parent doesn't have to be licensed, but the camper does. And so we'll get to do some operating, some direction finding, kit building, a lot of the things that we will do and rotate through at the big YOTA camp. So it's kind of a feeder program that we're trying to start. But that was one of the first things I wanted to add, being, a 5-year-old ham. It was always fighting the, you're 5 years old, you can't possibly do that. And so, when we advertise our camp is for 15 to 25-year-olds, I'm like, I get all these 10 and 11-year-olds writing me going, I want to come to camp. I want to come to camp. So we've added that. And so I'm looking forward to, getting the bugs worked out of that one and get that to where we can start offering more of those around the country.
So if you've introduced a junior camp, does that mean the main camp you have to be 15 or older?
Yes, the main camp, you have to be between the ages of 15 and 25. Now, we've made some exceptions, if it's pretty close, but now that we have the junior camp, we're pretty well sticking to that age limit.
So when I think of camp, I think of a cabin on a lake, but I presume that's not what camp is for YOTA. What's the venue typically? Is it a hotel using their conference facilities, or what does that look like?
There's a variety of setups for that. And there's been talk of, doing the cabin and doing the tents and everything. And so we may pull off a sub-regional one of these days with that kind of scenario. But what we've done so far has either been at a facility like the Voice of America Museum or a VFW hall or, some kind of venue and a hotel. And we just shuttle people back and forth. In fact, the first 2 years when we were here in Cincinnati, the hotel was just a half-mile away. And we actually put antennas on the roof and had a shack in the hotel as well as at the Voice of America Museum. And then the other venue is the university campus. So we move into the dorms. We use classroom space or meeting facilities. We've done all of the above. But we have a dedicated shack that's open all week long. And then we have meeting areas and breakout areas. We've introduced a lot of choices now. So you can either go do this or you can do this. So like this year we had either you can go do SOTA or you can go do POTA. If you want to go hike, you can go do SOTA. If you don't want to hike, you can do POTA. And try to offer some choices to our campers so that they can personalize that experience yet even more.
So when you say we, Neil, who are the other adult ham radio operators that are involved working with you?
So the co-founders, Sterling Mann, N0SSC, and Sam Rose, KC2LRC, they're the ones that went to Austria and brought back all the information. So they have been actively involved from the beginning. And Jocelyn Bro, KD8VRX, is here in Cincinnati, and so he was our connection to the museum and acted as the host for the first 2 years. And he was also a co-founder, and he's stayed with us. And then we have a variety of people that we've picked up along the way. We found we have an official camp mom and camp dad. They go to camps all the time and they chaperone all the time. And they have all kinds of training, and they're wonderful. And so we found them the first year, and we've had them back ever since. That's Orrin and Rebecca Squires. A couple of the first people I talked to were Andy Maluzzi and Tony Maluzzi from the Collegiate Amateur Radio Program. We got to be friends doing school club roundup back in the day, back in the high school stuff, and got to know them, and so they were some of the first people that I brought in to help out. And I've got a list a mile long. Katie Campbell's mom, Colleen, is a chemistry teacher, and so that was a natural fit, and so we've brought her on the last couple of years. And I'm leaving out a bunch of people, but as the years have gone on, though, we've also added, and this is probably my proudest thing of YOTA, is we've added former campers to the staff, and so they are doing a lot of the leading. So Ruth Willett, KM4LAO, is my assistant director. She's in training to take all this over at some point. She does all of our ARIS contacts each year. She does all the satellite stuff each year, and she's taken on the management role as well. So she's been doing that for the last several years. We came up with a public relations team. So Katie Campbell, K8LQR, is leading that now, and Taylor Lobb, K8KWZ, and Jack Roberts, W9RFT, do a lot of our IT and website work with the public relations team, and do photography. And Abby Kimmy Matsuyoshi, KK7CFJ, she's our registration person, so she handles all the paperwork and makes sure people turn stuff in on time and everything. Our QSL manager, our translators, they're all former campers. In fact, this year, one of the things that came up was VEs. We had a young man from the Northeast that came and was absolutely wonderful, and he was a VE, and he's like, I'll help out with the VE team, and he's already talking to me about what can we do to get some young people involved with the VE team for YOTA. So more and more of this is being run by the campers. We have our own translators, we have our own PR team, we have all these things. I'm working hard to put myself out of a job, is what I say. The young people take responsibility for this. They take the ownership of this, and it really means a lot more to them. So, so those are some of the people that have helped out, and I'm sure I'm leaving many out because we have about 20-25 people that are doing this.
So that leads me to my next question. If you have about 30 campers, you're saying there's another maybe 25 or 30 support staff, some parents. So is this a gathering of 60 to 80 people?
It's not quite that big, but it's usually around 50. We don't have everyone attending every camp. So some years we need this and not that. And so we'll change that out. Some years people have conflicts, and so they can't do this year, but they can do next year. And that's another thing. With the camp, you asked about when the camps are, the dates. We're basically June and July. It changes. We change our dates every year, because school schedules are not the same. So even in North America, schools could end as early as the middle of May, and may, start as late as, the 1st of September. And those vacations don't overlap. We have about a 3-week window that we can get the overlap there. So, for instance, this year's camp was the middle of June. Well, a lot of the schools in New England and in Canada are still in session. And so we we can't have that. So next year we're going to be in July, so those people can come. But when we do that in July, that's when band camp and football camp and all these, summer things start up for school. And so people from the Midwest and the West and the Southeast can't go. So we alternate the dates to try to allow as many people as possible to go. And, when the Argentinians bring it through, that's their winter. So they'll have it in the summer. So it'll be in our winter. So it just really depends. But we try to rotate that around so that, we accommodate as many people as possible, but we're not going to catch everybody every time.
So, Neil, for the young person who may be watching this and that is interested in participating, is there an application process? What are the costs? What's involved with actually getting on the roster?
So youthontheair.org is our website, and that's where you will find anything and everything about youth and ham radio. One of the things that we do is we share all these other information about all these other programs besides ours, but ours is there as well. And there is an application process. So on our website, you'll find a camps tab, and you go to the camps tab, and it will give you the information and the links to all of that. But for the Huntsville camp coming up in 2026, which, by the way, will be a special edition YOTA camp. It will be all space themed, as you might guess. So all of our sessions will have something to do with space. So it will be, again, a different experience. But applications for that will open on December 1st on our website, and we usually go through May, depending on when the camp is. It'll either be the 1st of May or last of May that the application deadline will be there. And then we go through and we see how many people we can fit into the program. So we do something kind of similar with junior. We open those applications up in the winter. The dates kind of vary, but we open those up in the winter. But youthontheair.org, and then click on camps, and you'll find all the information. You'll find all the old schedules and photos and everything you want to know about YOTA camp. You'll find it there.
And the cost?
The cost is running around $2,200. We obviously do not expect the campers to come up with that. So our cost is $100 US. That is a fee. That's basically so that they can take ownership. If we had it free, or we had it, $20 or whatever, then, people may sign up and then not show up. And then we've gone out and spent $2,200 on this person, and it's all for nothing. So, we do have a $100 fee, although, we do have scholarships that are available. So if, they can't afford the $100 to come, we will, work out some kind of arrangement to where we have some references, or we make some kind of arrangement to where, it's more likely that you're going to show up. So we try to keep that cost to not be a factor. You also will have to provide your transportation to and from whatever city that we're in. So, for instance, if you came to our camp in Denver, you would have to either fly to Denver or drive to Denver. But once you're there, once you land, we have a shuttle that will take you to the camp. We have a shuttle that will take you back to the airport. We cover all the meals. We cover all the housing, everything except souvenirs. It's covered. And we can't do that, without sponsors. And so on our camp page, you'll see a list of sponsors that have been very generous in doing this. But it costs us about $2,200, somewhere in that neighborhood, Each year it varies from location to location, but it's $100 a person.
And Neil, when you're reviewing, you and your team are reviewing the applications and approving them or not, what are the considerations that you are thinking about?
So we're not super selective at this point because we're just trying to get everybody, here. So we're basically just looking to make sure that, one, you're licensed. Two, that there's not some kind of issue that's going to cause all kinds of disruptions during the camp. And that's pretty much it. We also try to streamline people coming from other countries because they need more time to get visas and that kind of thing. And we're really trying to encourage that. So we do kind of streamline if you're coming from somewhere other than the U.S. We also, again, try to prioritize first-time campers. If you're coming back to go to camp, you're helping in some capacity, some more than others. But if you're coming back, this is not a thing where, you come year after year after year after year. We try to keep, about 2/3 of the campers brand new each year.
Well, Neil, this has been very helpful. I thought I knew what Youth on the Air was, but I'm going to walk away from this with a much better understanding. I really appreciate you taking time today.
Yeah, a lot of people, really focus on recruiting young people and getting them into ham radio. And a lot of people think that, we have a license program and you come for a week and you learn about ham radio and you get your license. And that's not at all what we're about. We're about retaining our youth. We need to do things to recruit youth, but we also need to do things to keep them going, to keep them interested, and to build a community of these young hams. And that's really what we're about is retention. And that's one of the things that's one of the messages we have to get out there. Is a lot of people have a lot of ideas about what YOTA is, and they don't realize exactly what it is. So thank you for helping spread the word on that.
Well, it's admirable work, and I thank you personally for that work. My name is Kevin Thomas, W1DED. This has been Q5 Ham Radio, and I've been talking to Neil Rapp, WB9VPG. Please go to the Youth on the Air America's website, take a look at it, donate if you can, and if you know a young person that may want to apply, get that application started. Neil, thank you again.
Absolutely. Well said. Thank you so much. 7-3.